This entitled chaperone tries to defend a child's lie about breaking a phone, just so OP can pay for a new one. But fortunately, not everyone believes them. Happy birthday if today's your birthday, and on with the show. So yeah, backstory. From about 2018 to 2019, I worked at an after-school program with the church that also functioned as a private school. I worked mostly with the after-school kids, ranging in ages from 5 to 12. I mostly worked with the older kids, who were about 10 to 14. This school had a daycare/nursery. I hardly interacted with the daycare, but sometimes I would have to sub for a teacher who was running late or couldn't come in. This story was one of those rare times I had to sub for a teacher in the daycare, and just a combination of everything going wrong. When working at the after-school program, it was a part-time gig, since I was only there from about 1 in the afternoon, until the last closing time, which is 6. It was nice since I could sleep in and do my schoolwork. It was a great setup, and 90% of the kids and parents were great. Hardly any of them were entitled, and not gonna lie, I miss my kids a lot now. But very rarely I would get called in to work to sub for a teacher in the daycare. Now, a quick note here is that the daycare was run by the church, and the after-school program was run by the school. They were separate entities, but sometimes the daycare would call teachers from the after-school to sub for the daycare sometimes. It was never a problem since the daycare workers were really nice, showed us how to handle toddlers and babies. Anyway, I said I would watch this class of 4-year-olds while their teacher was at a doctor's appointment. No biggie, it shouldn't be more than an hour. Like at most daycares and my after-school program, you have to register your child if you want them to attend daycare or the after-school program, and that way their name can be added to roll. Also, every time you come to pick up or drop off your child, you have to sign them in and out. The same applies to visitors. So I go in, sign in the sub list, go to classroom, and do a quick roll call. I have a total of 8 kids. Cool beans. 2 hours goes by. Their teacher is still a no-show, and I'm doing my best teaching their Bible lesson. 9:30, the kids are in their stations playing, taking a break from their reading lesson. The door opens, and the devil and her spawn come in. Like I said earlier, I have no clue who these kids are, but I do have my role. The devil, Karen, walks in, ushers in her spawn. Karen comes in after Son. Before I even had a chance to speak with him and ask his name, Karen turns to me and says, "Are you the teacher?" No, I'm Miss Mary. I'm just subbing for Miss Lily, the regular teacher." "Fine. When is she going to be back?" "Hopefully in a little while. I don't normally work here. I work in the after-school program. I was wondering, is your son new? I don't see his name on the roll." "Oh yes, we registered yesterday." Me a little wary. Okay. I'm sure he'll get added to the roll in the coming week." "Okay, well I'll be back around 8 to pick him up." I stop as she leaves for the door. "Ma'am, you can't leave your son here after 6. It's state law. 80% sure this is true." "Okay, fine." And Karen drew out the fine like I just asked her to take out the garbage. As she walks out the door, Spawn is playing with the kids and getting along just fine, but a part of me was just wary, like something didn't settle right with me. I grabbed the walkie-talkie and radioed the supervisor, asking if Miss Lily's class was expecting a new kid. She said no. Thankfully, I'd messaged her just as Karen was walking out the door. The supervisor said to bring Spawn to the office. He was sad, but I explained we had to see Mama. I take him to the office after asking a teacher to step in while I was gone. When we got about halfway down the hall, I hear, "What do you mean my son can't be here?" "Your son isn't registered with our daycare. We cannot accept him." "But this is a daycare." I walk in at this point with Spawn in hand, and she points to me. "Well, she let my son in the room." "I know, but she is a sub. She has to go by the roll. Your son was not on the roll, nor is he enrolled here." "I'm sorry, Miss Karen, but you and your son have to leave." Spawn is upset at this point because he was getting along with some of the kids, but Karen, being Karen, just started back up. "This is a daycare. You have a no discrimination policy. You have to accept my son." "Ma'am, you are right. We have a no discrimination policy, but you have to schedule a tour and interview in case you want to enroll your child here. This does not mean it's a walk-in daycare. Please, just leave." I'm just standing there with Spawn holding my hand. She snatches Spawn from my hand and swears, "This will not be the last time you hear from me." The supervisor tells me to go back to the classroom and not to worry that I made a good call about the mum. The rest of the day goes by smoothly. I go to my real job without a worry. The next day, the supervisor emailed with an update about Karen, pretty much saying, "Hey Mary, just wanted to let you know that you did a good job yesterday handling that lady." And yes, she did call the director of the daycare, trying to get us in trouble for discriminating against her, because guess what? She's Italian. I mean, of all things, but I digress. The director said that don't worry about anything, and that you are more than welcome to sub here more often. The kids love you. Have a good rest of your day. I don't officially know what happened to Karen, but I do know from the email, the director told her to shove off. I can imagine some childcare places probably have a policy where you could just drop off your kids, but it's a bit much to assume that every single place you can just do that. If you made some important plans that you can't be with your kids with, well, you better be 100% sure that they're going to be able to take your kids during that time. But can you really expect an entitled parent to do that kind of critical thinking? This happened 5 to 6 years in the second largest country in the world by land, Canada. Canadians, you rock. I'm from Thailand. I will have to include the nationalities for context. I speak English and Thai fluently, and a bit of Mandarin Chinese. This is important later. I went to a summer camp which was basically English classes in the morning and activities in the afternoon. I chose to just go for the sake of a new experience, and it was really fun, except for these 2 days, which really soured my mood for the following week. Before that, I need to point out that I bought a new bag for my figure skates, which was this solid steel suitcase which you can sit on. Tried and tested, it can take the weight of 2 women, as some ice rinks don't provide you with seats to put your skates on. It has only 2 wheels but is cleverly designed so that it can climb stairs. While about to leave school on the way to Vancouver Aquarium, I was wheeling my bag behind me when I felt a tug on the handle. I look back and it was obvious from the way he was walking. Entitled kid, 10-year-old Chinese boy, was more focused on talking to his friend than actually looking at where he was going, and going the wrong way. He flips over my bag, which I tried to pull to minimize the damage. Don't want him to impale his ribcage on my steel bag, which will hurt, and his hip takes most of the fall. I ask him if he's alright in English, and he laughs and completely ignores me, continues to talk to his friend in Chinese. Looks like he's okay. I go about my day. Oh, I forgot to introduce the entitled chaperone. She's this complete mess of a woman going through her midlife crisis who is just yelling at kids, causing a scene, and also never brushed her teeth or bothered to use perfume. She came with a language school from China, which had the most percentage of students in that school. Most of the kids barely spoke English, by the way. The savior of this story is the headmistress, who is a 50-ish Canadian lady in a wheelchair, who is super calm, and approved my bag for the use in school. Anyways, let's get on with the story. EC approaches me the next day, speaking in a calm voice, and tells me to follow her. I follow her and see EK weeping his eyes out, having an outburst, which is a mixture of sadness, anger, and a whole bunch of other negative emotions. I end up thinking, what did I do to this kid? I ask the question, what happened? The response, you broke his phone. What? How? Are you deaf? Something along those lines. Excuse me? You broke his phone. Yesterday, you broke his phone. See? Tells EK to show phone in Chinese. EK continues crying and making a scene. Can you tell me how exactly I broke his phone? You tripped him. Are you so careless wheeling your stupid bag around? Look at him now. Look at him. He can't get his phone repaired here. It's a crappy Chinese phone. She didn't say crappy, but it was like some brand I'd never heard of before and haven't heard of since. Stop shouting at me. I won't speak to you anymore. I'm going to the headmistress. If you won't let me explain myself, I'll let somebody else be the judge. Silently. Screw you. Hi there, OP. What's up? EC is saying I broke EK's phone. When? Tells exactly what happened. And there were many witnesses around me, including staff. At this point, EC found me. What are you doing? The only students you're allowed jurisdiction over is the Chinese. I'm Thai. What happened, EC? This Thai jerk broke EK's phone. The whole time I was looking at EC in her eyes, and I knew that if I said, I'll pay for the cost of a new phone, she would shut up. That was the look she gave me. Luckily, I was in Canada. If this was mainland China, I'd be pretty screwed because of the culture over there, and me being a foreigner, I'm the scapegoat. EK, what happened? He didn't even speak English. EC had to translate. EK in Chinese. He broke my phone. It hurts all over. He broke my phone. I can't play my game anymore. I can't play. EC goes on a ridiculous tirade towards me, which sounds barely believable. Look, if you're going to keep on insulting him, just go. OP, follow me to my office and we'll discuss. I follow her to her office and she says, OP, I'll try to find the best solution. I think the insurance will pay the cost for it. I'll call them and give you an answer tomorrow. We do not condone that sort of behavior EC was showing. That sounds great. I hope I don't have to pay, since it was clearly either an accident or his fault. I was thinking of lending my iPad to him, but I wouldn't trust him if he's being that careless. I think it was just bad timing. But you're still okay to wheel your bag around. Just be careful for the next couple of days. He can still contact his parents through us. I go back the next day and receive good news. The insurance will pay. They say it covers damage to personal possessions, so you're cool. All I want you to do though is just apologize to EK. It's just a Canadian custom. She literally said that. I think I can do that. I go over to EK, still crying, looking completely dead inside. I say a short apology to him, which I can't remember what I said, but I said it all in Mandarin. He was so angry at me, I think he tried to strike me. Anyways, I lost a bit of time, happiness, and a bit of light damage to my bag. One thing I couldn't believe, even from rewriting this story, is the fact that this kid is completely addicted to his phone. Like it was as if his parent died or something. Okay, so maybe when the kid fell, he broke his phone at the same time, but there's just this sneaking suspicion that something else happened and he wants to blame it on her. Especially the way that EC is so determined that OP should pay for it. In either case, it wasn't OP's fault in the first place. It's just weird that there's no recognition of that. The backstory. My younger sister has always been entitled, and my dad has always hated me and my older brother. My sister was always his favorite and would treat her with insane leniency, and she grasped that behavior from him. My dad has always wanted arguments to go his way, as far as literally smashing the entire living room to bits and throwing the TV on my older brother, simply because my mum said, I don't want to speak to someone who acts like a moron. Prior to this, he had been cursing at her over and over, as well as her family, without her retaliating. My sister had a big habit to leave stuff dirty and messy. This is in just about everything, but we're gonna focus on dishes for now. Majority of the time, the food my sister eats is just instant noodles and spaghetti, primarily because she can't cook. She leaves her dirty dishes either in the sink or in her room, so this mostly revolves around my sister, with my dad being her bodyguard. Now that you've grasped the basics on my dad and sister's behavior, onto the story. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, sister, making noodles, leaves dirty dish in the sink. Hey sis, can you clean your dishes? I want to use them. Why should I clean them? You want to use them, you clean them. Remember what she said here. Because you would use them, you should clean them. This lasts for quite a bit, with back and forth arguing for a couple minutes, until my brother takes her phone. He was given permission from mum to do so if she acts up, which she often does. Sister goes into a full tantrum, trying to tackle my brother, which she fails to do. She's a stick and he's a bulky guy, over and over, eventually leading to my brother just holding her down and telling her to calm down. Eventually, sister gets a massive knife and threatens both me and my brother. She's crying at this point in a tantrum, so we give her the phone. Knife in hand, walks to the stairs, and we command her to put the knife down over and over, till she finally obeys and throws the knife down. The knife pierced the carpet just 8 centimeters away from my foot. We run after her and hold her down and kept her upstairs, where she had no access. Eventually, parents come home. They were already alerted of the situation from my younger brother. Mum begins shouting at my sister for being stupid enough to raise a knife over something so petty. Entitled dad was outside smoking a cigarette, then eventually comes in while everything is calming down and gets in me and my brother's face, cursing at us over and over. He was talking about how she's a girl. What's she gonna do with the knife? Stop trying to be big and tough by treating a girl like that. You get it. He then tries to ground us, to put it lightly, essentially asking for me and my brother's phone to break, except it wasn't going to happen. Me and my brother are of similar stature, and 17-18-year-old. Eventually, my mum stepped in and warned my dad. Essentially, my dad would eyeball us the entire day, and whenever out the view of my mum, he would start saying some BS about being useless children and stupid, and just more overall attempts to agitate us, knowing we won't do anything. That carries on for approximately a week. Skipping to yesterday, similar situation happened. I was eating a nice watermelon to cool off, and I was getting ready to clean the knife, and this wide dish to catch drops. And literally as I'm picking everything up, my sister tells me to leave it, and she wants to use it. So I leave the stuff there and tell her over and over, at least 7 times, "You're going to clean it after." And she would either ignore it or do a quiet hum that sounded like a yes, just to get me to stop talking. So she cuts it up, puts in a new bowl with a new fork, and takes it upstairs. As she's going up the stairs, I verify one more time. "You're going to clean this stuff, right? Remember what I told you to remember earlier?" "No, why should I clean it? You used it first, you should clean it." Without missing a heartbeat, I go after her, grab the bowl of watermelon and give it to my younger brother, and what he didn't want went to my parrot. She obviously complained and threw a hissy fit, but my dad eventually came home, her guardian angel, and he tried to punish me, wagging his finger in my face and breathing on me with a taste of 7 Marlboro cigarettes. I also want to say, by this time, my mum had left the country to see and care for her severely ill and dying parents. I don't follow along with his rules and just contact my mum instead, and she sorts it out. So I decided any dirty dish I see that she produced, I would just pick up and leave in her room. Skipping to today, she cuts up watermelon again in a bowl. I see it there, so I take it up to her room and leave it there. She throws a hissy fit and takes it downstairs and leaves it. By this time, my dad was about to get into bed, gets up and goes straight to me, asks what the problem is. I tell him, I saw this bowl that sister used and I wanted to use it, so I brought it up to her as a reminder. My dad also throws a hissy fit, grabs the bowl out of my hand and smashes it onto the ground in the kitchen. I decided just to take pictures of it and send it to my mum, as well as the cut of my foot. My dad failed to apologize or show any regret or care, and it isn't the first time he has done this type of stuff. I know sometimes parents can choose favorites, but I don't know how you could defend such bad behavior constantly. Maybe it's because he has the same personality type and he's like, well, I don't want to be judged for those things, so I'm gonna defend her. Submit your story to be read on the channel at voiceyherestories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright, Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.